Hello, and welcome to the first ever late night horror show. This is going to be a radio style horror show where you guys only going to listen to the horror stories. No unwanted conversations, no unwanted talking. Only I'm going to play some crazy ass scary horror stories. So before we begin with the live stream, I would like to tell you something. In fact, I would like to ask you guys something. We all know about ghost stories, but do you know the first ever case of a paranormal activity ever recorded in the history of mankind? If you'd like to know about the first ever paranormal activity case, I will tell you in tonight's show. But we will begin with a crazy horror story from India. So, welcome everyone. My name is Desmond, and my podcast name is SYWK. And this is a new segment where I have introduced. It is called the Late Night Horror Show. So I'm going to play the first story for tonight. The story is about one of the most haunted places in India. It's called Rajasthan, and there is a place called as Kuldhara. So this is a story about a couple who visited Kuldhara and they experienced something supernatural. So without wasting any time, I will play the first ever story for tonight's live stream. Here we go.
An article caught my eye about Rajasthan. So whenever ghost stories and Rajasthan come into picture, the first thing what we think is Bhangad, right?
Yeah.
So the Bhangad Fort, we know all about it. We've read a lot about it. But then there is another village which is called Kuldhara. Now Kuldhara is basically 17 kilometers away from Jaisalmer, which is one of a very popular tourist destinations. But what really lies beneath this village is something beyond my belief, and I was trembling when I read about it. I literally had goosebumps. So basically, Kuldhara was a village which existed in the 13th century till the 19th century.
Okay.
After that, uh, in 1825, which was the 19th century, the entire village disappeared, just disappeared. And
Oh.
people had no clue about it. So if we do a little bit of history, they see that some article says that an earthquake took the entire village along with it, but that is not possible because if you dig down, you would
Oh.
find remains of people, or you would find houses, you would find some existence of life, but then there was nothing. So I'd like to tell you a story related to this.
Oh.
There were a couple who, similarly, like you and wish to travel a lot to different destinations. And
Okay.
they said that, we would go to Udaipur. They planned their trip, they reached Udaipur. And, a very young mind is what I can say. So they might be around, what, 32, 33 approximately. And very young, finicky minds saying that,
Okay.
masti karni hai, we want to literally have fun. We want to
Oh.
go roaming, we want to explore, we want to be more adventurous. So that
This
is,
is in Udaipur, right?
yeah, Udaipur. So
Okay.
they said that, we just don't want to be in the hotel. Let's go and explore places and stuff. So they went to Udaipur and they spent 2 days. And they were looking out for a guide who could take them to different places as well. So one of uh, you know, the person in those two couples said that, why don't we, explore Bhangad? Like
Okay.
every person who ever goes to Rajasthan, yeah,
Every tourist here.
Tempted.
Yeah.
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 भानगढ़ चलते हैं भूत देखेंगे रात को भी करूँ all that. So they told the guide that we want to go to Bhangad, and I don't know if it's a myth now because we've heard so many things that we will go to Bhangad and say वहाँ तो हमें कुछ हुआ ही नहीं. Obviously, the booth is not waiting for you right over there to come and scare you.
Ah, correct.
So the guide also said that वहाँ पे तो कुछ नहीं रखा है भानगढ़ में. There is nothing. You will just go see the fort, get tired, and go back home. The only thing is because of so much of police restriction and the notice what the government has applied over there saying that after 6 or after sunset, you're not allowed over there.
That's it. Yeah.
आप एक काम करो, मैं आपको एक दूसरी जगह लेके चलता हूँ. I'll take you to another place. So they all got excited. It's like, oh, there are more haunted places in Rajasthan as well. I said, बताने के लिए तो 1000 है. मैं सिर्फ एक से शुरुआत करूँगा. That's what he said. That's what his wordings were. तो बताने के लिए तो 1000 है. मैं सिर्फ एक से शुरुआत कर लूँगा. झेल सको तो झेल लेना.
Wow.
And dialogue passed. I was like, okay, fine, good. And they said, where? Then they told them about Kuldhara. They said, there is a hotel near Jaisalmer. And we'll stay over there. And during the night times, which is not official, it's not allowed, we will go and explore. They were all planning and, saying that what are we going to exactly do over there? And the guide said, I'm not going to come along. From here onwards, it's only you. I'm not going to be there. And they were like, okay.
Why? He was scared?
He wasn't scared. Probably he might have not felt something to contribute towards. Or if anything happens to them, he would be the one responsible because he's a local over there.
Yeah.
They said, I'm here on, or probably he might be trying to scare them more.
Yeah. Now it's your own risk. Take it from your types.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, or probably he might have got his money at. Doesn't get quick. So, in the evening when they reached the hotel, they were charging their cameras, their phones, getting their iPod ready that, whatever they want to do. Tripods, or probably shoot something or that sort. So, when they left in the vehicle, and they were just approaching the entrance towards Kuldhara, the entire village. So, they saw a lot of lighting. And they said, let's यहाँ पे रुक के चलते हैं थोड़ी देर, and then we'll, proceed further. So because it was so much of lighting and there were people dressed in those Rajasthani dresses and stuff and all. And they said, fine, we look sometime, and then probably we'll move further. So while they were roaming around, they were looking at things, they were looking at stuff. Like, they have those stalls and they have those henna prints on sarees and a lot of ink made with vegetable color and stuff and all, which is very organic and stuff. So they were seeing all these, they were seeing how pottery is made. And suddenly, one of the guy is trying to tell the girl that, let's go sneak out from here and we'll have a smoke and we'll come back. They went outside the tent and they were smoking. And suddenly the guy comes from behind and says, what are you doing? He was like, we're smoking. He said, कि मेरे को भी एक cigarette. And this demand was an actual demand. He was not investing. Please, आपके पास एक cigarette है तो people को. It's like, cigarette दो मुझे. And they gave him one cigarette. And he lit up the cigarette. And he was just walking away. Within thin air, he disappeared. And these two people saw the girl and the guy saw this guy disappearing.
Oh my God.
Like,
What?
He took the cigarette, he turned around,
Yeah.
took a puff, walking, and you know how things evaporate?
Like just in the thin air.
Just gone off. That this really spooked them out. And this is what just exactly happened. The girl couldn't even process that something of this sort actually happened. She was in a state of shock. So this guy said that there's something wrong. Let's go back inside. When they went inside, they could see only the other two couple. And they could hear.
Was the host? Okay.
The
mela was still there?
Setup is there. Yes, the mela is still there. The entire setup is there. But the only thing is they can't see people. They can only see the other two couple.
That is their friend.
The other two couple. Yeah, they're friends.
That's it.
And the other two couple are talking to people. But what these two people can see, there's nobody there. They are just talking. ये कितने का है? ये कितने का है? ये पहन के देखो. And there is nothing in their hand. They are not seeing anything.
Oh God.
Freak.
But they can hear everything. They can hear people around them.
You can hear people talking.
Yes, like right next to you, but they can't see. They can only see these two people. So they went to them and they said, let's go. And they said, what happened? It's like, बाद में बताता हूँ, चल पहले यहाँ से, because
Yeah.
you don't have words to express such a situation.
Yeah, you can't explain. Yeah.
It's very unnatural what's happening. And they said, let's चलो गाड़ी में बैठेंगे, गाड़ी में बताता हूँ. When they sat in the vehicle, they tried to,
Sad
tell them
things.
that what exactly was happening over there. And when they started saying कि वहाँ पे कोई नहीं था, वहाँ पे मेला है, सब लगा हुआ, but there are no people. We saw it. We saw a man disappearing. Like exactly what happened with them. We went outside to smoke. We went behind the tent. A guy came, asked cigarette. He lighted up the cigarette and he vanished. When we came inside the tent, we couldn't see any people, but it was only you two talking to people. And I said, listen, we are any which ways going to Kuldhara. No need to scare us. अगर तुम लोग को डर लग रहा है, don't come.
Yeah.
I was like, no, you really need to understand that there is something of an entity or probably some supernatural stuff happening around us. It's like, okay, fine, let's. ठीक है, नहीं जाना, we'll go tomorrow, not a problem. They turned the vehicle and it was no road. There was no road. There was only sand everywhere.
My God.
They turned the vehicle because गाड़ी तो पार्किंग में खड़ी करी रहेगी उन्होंने.
Yeah.
रोड से आके पार्किंग में नॉर्मली खड़ी किया रहेगा. There was nothing. But the Mela was there. The fair was there. But then it was all around the desert. There was no way. All the 360 degrees, you don't know where to go.
So then how did they get there in the first place? Like, even if they were being delusional, but then the car would still have to go through the sand, and it's not easy to drive in the sand. You
So
know what I
when
mean?
you park the vehicle, I mean not literal sand, but
Okay.
Ubad-Khabad road.
Ha. Kacha rasta.
Off-road, off-road.
Yeah.
So when they try to, go in different directions, they finally saw a road. आगे जाके road मिला उनको, because the Ubad-Khabad rasta was not Ubad-Khabad anymore. It was a proper road. When they reached over there, they started going towards the left, because intuitionally they thought that left was the right.
That's where they came from. They thought, हम तो यही रास्ते से आए, so let's go back the same way, right?
They reached Kuldhara, the village, instead of reaching back to Jaisalmer.
Oh.
Now they were in the village. They were actually in the village. Now, how do you understand that they were actually in the village? They could make out pillars. They could make out pillars, broken shops, broken houses.
Like ruins? The city ruins, they could see?
Kind of city ruins.
Okay.
But not exactly. You really have to, put your brain to it. कि यहाँ पे कुछ हो सकता था. Because everything is just stacked. And in bundles. It's not like everywhere. And they thought that, fine, we are here now, what to do? I was like, fine, so let's do what we're here for. They started recording their cameras. And they're starting, to shoot. One of the girls, while shooting, would see all those people from the Mela, from the fair.
In that place.
In that place. And it's only in the camera. It's not over here. It's not in reality. It's only in the camera. And she's telling, guys, can you see this? Can you see this? Luckily, she didn't have to explain herself so much.
Because they were seeing the same thing on their phones?
No, the other guys couldn't see this lady anymore. The rest of the...
They couldn't see. Not even in her phone, they couldn't see.
They couldn't see the girl. This girl thought of telling my friends. But then when she was saying, all the three couldn't see her.
She got invisible.
Whoa!
My God.
So she said, guys, come on, come here, look at this. And then they realized nobody can see her. And she's going and telling, guys, look at me. And passing away here and there. There was nothing.
And for how did this go on?
These three people find this girl missing. And then looking out for her. They're calling out for her. They spent almost around 6 hours over there till dawn. They couldn't find this girl. Then they had to come back. They couldn't
What happened to that chick?
She wasn't.
What happened to the first friend? So she just disappeared.
Now, according to what people say, that she was taken away in the Mela only. in the fair, in the actual fair, what they felt it was a fair.
Yeah.
This girl was taken in the fair only, and there was somebody else in her place
Why?
who was along with them the entire time they reached the village. And
Oh,
it was this girl only who said, "Take left. I feel we should go left." And they got these people to this village.
And that's how they ended up in the village ruins.
no.
I have some questions too.
Yeah.
If this chick was the one who had disappeared and said all this, so how do we know that she was seeing the spirits in her phone? Just that.
So basically, when these people narrated, no, there were 3 different angles to the story.
Yeah.
Everybody had their own point of view.
Okay.
So according to me, I felt that this was the point of view which actually made sense, because the rest of the other 2 point of views were completely vague. They were very unnatural. I mean, difficult to believe, even though they know that it happened to them. That was their perspective. They must have
So
thought.
basically, even though they were all together, they were actually experiencing different things and they were seeing different things. So even when they said, it was not the same thing that they were experiencing at the
For
time.
everybody, yeah.
But then all 3 of them had actually seen the 4th friend with them, and then
Yes.
He
It was
just
when she was in the
disappeared.
car, no?
and she was the one who said, "Let's go left." Yeah, I think this movie came from and guided them.
The
to
wrong
the
turn.
village.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the wrong turn. So when actually she said that, hey guys, come, they couldn't find any of her belonging, not even her, what do you call that? That small little camera?
GoPro.
GoPro. Nothing was found. No tripod, no GoPro. Her bags weren't there. Nothing was there. It was like she was just taken away.
And did they go looking for her back in the same that Mela place?
Yeah,
And they still couldn't find that chick.
nothing. Not even
Maybe she must have put a stall now in the Mela, selling a tripod and whatever stuff.
an article caught my eye.
And that was the story of Kuldhara, the haunted village of Rajasthan. Now, moving ahead, I have another story which I will be playing. But before that, if you're new to my channel, please, I would request you to subscribe, like the stream, and if anyone is listening to this on any of the audio platform, please don't forget to subscribe, follow me on my Instagram account, follow me on all the possible platforms. So now we will go ahead with the second story. The second story is basically a place in Mumbai. It is my hometown. It's called as Naigaon. And for people who don't know, Naigaon is in the outskirts of Mumbai, where 30 years before, very few people lived there. So there is one of the creepiest stories which everyone in Naigaon knows about. So now I am going to play the haunted story of Naigaon. So without wasting any time, here we go. This happened on the 13th of February 1992 in a small village in Maharashtra called Naigaon. There was a young man named Praveen who drove an auto rickshaw for his livelihood. He lived with his wife and 2 kids and was the only earning member of the family. He used to pick and drop passengers from Naigaon railway station to their destination. On the night of 13th February 1992, Praveen decided to wait back for the last local train, which was between 2:30 am to 3 am. During those days, auto rickshaw services were not so frequent at that time of the night, as they wouldn't get passengers easily. Around 2:45 am, the last local train halted at the platform. And strangely, no passengers got down from the train. Seeing this, Praveen was disappointed and decides to go back home. Suddenly, he sees a man walking towards him. He stops his auto rickshaw and he asks the man, "Sir, aap kahan jaoge?" The man replied,
क्या आप मुझे रोशन पार्क तक छोड़ सकते हो?
Roshan Park was in the interiors of the village. Praveen thought for a second, but then replied with a yes, as at that hour of the night, the old man wouldn't get another ride. The man sits in the auto rickshaw and instructs Praveen to go ahead. However, Praveen decides to wait for another 2 minutes. But since he does not get any other passenger, he starts to move ahead. From afar, he sees a young and beautiful woman waving her hand out to halt the auto rickshaw. He halts it for her, she gently tells him her location, and they all move ahead. That ride for Praveen was quite lonely and dark. Since there were no other vehicles on the road, the only light flashing on the road was from his headlight. After 5 minutes, they reached near the woman's location, which was right near a graveyard. And that's when his life changed forever. It was quite dark and nothing was visible. While she got down to pay him the fare, he dropped it accidentally. While picking it up, he notices her legs were reversed. He was so terrified that he started his auto rickshaw and rushes to go away from her. Wondering what's wrong, the man behind questioned.
क्या हुआ?
Praveen replies, आपने देखा नहीं सर, उसके पैर उल्टे थे? The man replies,
ओह, मेरे जैसे क्या?
13 February 1992. Around 6 a.m., villagers find Praveen unconscious in the middle of the road with his auto rickshaw upside down. They take him to his residence, where he gets up with an extremely high temperature. He was scared of anything which came close to him. They called the local doctor and gave him medication which put him to sleep for a while. 14th of February, the next day. Somehow, he tells his family about the terrible incident, which at first no one believed. He was acting strange and saying weird things that his family could not understand. They decide to admit him to the local hospital. But sadly, the very next day, Praveen passed away. His death is still a mystery till date. And that was the horror story from Naigaon. So we will move ahead with the next story. But before that, if you remember, towards the start of the show, I had told you that there was the first ever paranormal case recorded in the mankind of history. And I'm going to tell you about that. But before that, we will listen to another story, which is one of my favorite stories. So basically, everyone knows that Jose, he had started his live stream and he invited a lot of people and they used to come and share their stories. So out of that, there is one of the creepiest stories which I heard on his stream and then I narrated in my style. So it's basically a story of Mangalore and the title is The Haunted Mansion in Mangalore. So now we will listen to the story. Without wasting any time, let's begin. This incident happened in a city in India called Mangalore. There was a big fat Indian wedding happening on the 21st of December 1978. The venue of the occasion was at a massive mansion that could accommodate more than 150 to 200 guests at a time. And it also had a huge courtyard in front where the rituals and reception for weddings were held. A week before the wedding, all the guests had arrived. The mansion's atmosphere was exciting. People singing and dancing, children playing, ladies dressing and talking, men arranging and decorating the area. Everyone was busy preparing for the big day. But one night, around 1 a.m., a small girl called Sneha asked her mother to take her to the washroom. Sneha and her mother were resting in a room on the first floor, and the washroom in those days were located outside the house. Sneha's mother was too tired since she had a long day preparing for the wedding. However, she requested a lady who was passing their room to take Sneha to the washroom, assuming she was one of the guests. But strangely, Next morning, Sneha woke up with a burning fever, and her mother was confused and worried about what could cause her daughter to fall sick in one night. She had got so serious that they had to call for medical help. All the relatives started to inquire what was the cause of the sudden complication. And then suddenly her mother recalled that she sent Sneha to the washroom with a lady who was passing by their room the previous night. Immediately she informed the rest and started searching for the lady, since that lady was the last one to be in contact with Sneha. There were more than 150 plus guests and 40 helpers at that mansion, but after inquiring with most of them, they could not find her. However, after a few hours, when Sneha gained consciousness, her mother inquired about the lady. And she asked her to describe how she looked and what exactly she wore. While she was describing her attire, they got to know from one of the helpers that her description was similar to a lady who had passed away 30 years ago, and she was the daughter of the owner who owned the mansion. When this news reached the head of the helpers, whose name was Kamla Devi, who was working for decades at the mansion, she started crying and chanting her prayers loudly. Wondering what's happening, the owner of the mansion, who was still alive at that time but quite old, inquires from Kamla Devi what's wrong. Why was she behaving so strangely? After a while, when she became calm, she told everything to the owner, which was quite shocking to know. So now let me take you back to the year 1948. Apparently, 30 years ago, the owner's daughter, who was named Gayatri, had committed suicide. And the reason she killed herself was that she wanted to marry a boy, but due to caste differences, her family did not support her. The night she died, Gayatri, with the help of Kamla Devi, had planned a fake suicide because she wanted to prove to her parents that she was serious about marrying the boy, and had assumed that if she would fool her parents, somehow they would get convinced for the marriage. So Gayatri stole her mother's sari, which was apparently only worn by a bride from the family. And then she takes a long cloth and wraps one end to a wooden panel and the other end to her chin. And she tells Kamla Devi that she will ensure that the cloth will be on her chin and not on her neck, as they were trying to gain sympathy. After that, Gayatri tells Kamla Devi to go and inform her parents. But since Kamla Devi was so scared of the owner, she took a lot of time to convey the message. By the time she brings Gayatri's parents to her room, there she was hanging to death. It is said that she accidentally strangled herself and died. After all the ceremonial rites were done, one night, while Kamla Devi was sleeping, she felt someone tapping her feet. She startled and woke up. And there she saw Gayatri. However, Gayatri did not seem harmless. In fact, she asked her for a glass of water since her throat was hurting and went away. Kamla Devi did not understand what happened, and she assumed that she had a nightmare. However, this incident started happening every night. By now, Kamla Devi realized that it wasn't a nightmare and she was actually witnessing Gayatri's spirit. Although Gayatri wasn't harming anyone, as she herself hadn't realized that she had passed away, and she would casually roam around the mansion. But Kamla Devi was worried that one day, if Gayatri realizes what had happened to herself, she would harm the rest. To bring this to an end, somehow Kamla Devi, with the help of another helper, took a Hanuman statue and kept it near the entrance of the mansion, and they would pray every day without fail for the family's protection. And this practice went on for 3 decades. Due to the prayers, Gayatri's spirit was never seen after that. However, during the wedding in 1978, everyone got so busy during the preparation that one helper assumed that the other one must have said the prayers. And this went on for a couple of nights. But it so happened that the prayers, which were keeping the family protected from Gayatri's spirit, started fading off. Due to that, Gayatri could revisit the mansion, and looking at the wedding preparation, she assumed it was her marriage. After the owners getting to know the story from Kamla Devi, they realized that the cause of Sneha's illness was in connection with Gayatri. Then they decided to call a priest, and he suggested wrapping the Hanuman statue with one of Gayatri's clothing, as she was not a harmful spirit, and everyone should respect and start praying for a soul to rest in peace. To date, in 2021, and that was another creepy story. If you're enjoying this format, please let me know. Give me your feedback. If you're listening to this episode on any of the audio platforms, then DM me on Instagram. And if you're watching this live on YouTube, then please comment below and let me know. Subscribe to my channel to stay connected. Support me by subscribing, by liking. And now we will go ahead with the next story, which is the last story for tonight. But before that, I spoke to you guys towards the start of the episode where I was telling you about the first ever paranormal activity case which was ever recorded in the history of mankind. I'll give you a clue, I'll give you a hint. It was in the first century AD. So, do you guys remember? If anyone is a fan of horror stories, of paranormal, everyone should know about this specific case. I will tell you after the next story ends, but I would like to give a shout out because the next story is not from my channel. So, everyone knows that every Tuesday I do a horror live on my YouTube channel where I have a co host where we talk about the paranormal world, where we talk about ghost stories. So that live stream is a different kind of format where it is a conversation format. And this live stream is basically a radio, old school horror style. So a co host, Swati Rao, she also has her own podcast. Her podcast name is Desi Horror Podcast, and she is available on Spotify. Her details are in the description, so if you would like to go and follow her, please don't forget to follow her because even she covers some creepy stories from India and all around the world. So the next story is from her channel, and I will be playing that story. So I'll just give you a hint about what is this story, what is this episode which she recorded. So everyone knows Pune as a city. It is beautiful, but also there is a dark side for the city. There are a couple of different haunted places, and one of that is Holkar Bridge. Yes, there are many rumors that this bridge is haunted, and the story which I'm going to play, Swati Rao is talking specifically about the Holkar Bridge. So, without wasting any time, I will be playing the episode now. So, here we go. Three, two, and one.
For today's episode, we travel to central India. In the beautiful state of Maharashtra and central India, we have an equally beautiful town, Pune. Pune is very well known for its educational institutions, it's a huge IT hub, and of course, for its lovely people and delicious food. Pune has some of the best Maharashtrian delicacies available, and I personally think the city is amazing. Now, coming back to a question that has been asked before in some of the Q&As, how can metros have a lot of supernatural stories? That part is true. It's difficult for metros to have supernatural stories because, let's get real here, they're cities, they're big cities with hustle and bustle of people going to work, and it's just a very logical place, and when it's very logical, it's rare to give, when it's rare that that kind of a place would give birth to anything supernatural, or of course not even folk tales, myths, anything of that sort. That is why a lot of stories on my podcast have myths and folklore and stories that have a supernatural setting from small towns, villages. Of course, a lot of stories are from outside India as well, because again, I'm covering Asia here. But all of that said, it does not mean we cannot get supernatural tales from cities. We just have to look. And when we look a little bit and dig a little deeper, that is when you'll always find something creepy lying around. So, for today's story, we are talking about a rather popular supernatural venue. Let's call it a venue, considering you can actually visit it and it's being used until date. So, it's a rather popular supernatural place. It's the Holkar Bridge of Pune. Now, the Holkar Bridge is connecting the outskirts. So, it connects the outskirts of Pune. Is this bridge that has so much history? While many people travel this route frequently, they have no idea that the reputation of Holkar Bridge is actually quite dark, especially at night. Now, this bridge was constructed during the 1800s by the then leader of the Pune area, Madharao Peshwa. It received its name from Yashwantrao Holkar, who commonly camped along the river that the bridge crossed. Later, it would serve as a location for a British military to camp there. Through Holkar Bridge is where transport used to happen, because, like as mentioned earlier, that is where the British used to camp. Now, this has an interesting history, but it also has a spooky history. It's spooky because a lot of sinister ghost stories started surrounding this bridge, and this started to instill the fear into many. A string of unexplained deaths along the bridge caused many people to perceive Holkar Bridge as a haunted destination. Local lore suggests that some form of evil presence or curse could be responsible for accidents resulting in deaths along the bridge. Additionally, many people have claimed to witness ghostly apparitions on and around the bridge as they pass by. Now, the main reason which has resulted in all of this is because right at the end of the bridge is the cemetery. Some believe the presence of the cemetery, very appropriately named Holkar Bridge Cemetery, could be responsible for some of these wandering spirits. The cemetery contains graves which date back to the late 1700s and are made up of a mix of cultural backgrounds. Holkar Bridge is easily accessible by car. It also has a pedestrian walkway which is again accessible at all hours of the day. On one side of the river is a local park which allows access to the river banks and lower areas of the bridge. Along the other side is the cemetery. Now, this is the way you can access Holkar Bridge, which makes it look like how can such an accessible place be haunted? Now, the story here is that the original haunting of this bridge began several decades ago, where there was a woman and a son walking along the pedestrian way, and a car rammed into her son, and he was bleeding to death because it was a hit and run. The car never stopped to take the boy to the hospital. The son passed away on the bridge, and the mother was so grief stricken that she jumped off the bridge into the water and, of course, died. And this is the original haunting which has resulted in their souls wandering the bridge and became the cause for several other ghost stories, as I mentioned here. There are also some witnesses that say that they've seen a boy, or a little boy, and a lady walking around the bridge at some late hours of the night. But most people claim that all of this is just made up and this is just a regular bridge. Now, this is for you to decide whether this is truly haunted or not. But considering that it's right in the middle of Pune, you can actually visit this bridge, preferably at night, and find out for yourself. For today's episode, we travel to central
And that was the history of the Holkar Bridge in Pune. There are a lot of scary stories which people have experienced on the bridge, and we will be narrating some more stories, some more scary stories in our next show. So, this was the first episode, that is the late night horror show. Let me know how did you like this format. So basically I have plans to create different formats on my channel. I am doing shorts on daily basis. I am doing live now on Tuesday, where it is basically a conversation style uh, live stream where we talk about the paranormal. This is a different kind of live where I'm only going to play the scary episodes. And then I'm also planning to start another section called as the true crime. So yes, lot of exciting things happening on my channel. If you are a fan of the paranormal, if you are a fan of true crime, then please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. My channel's name is SYWK Podcast. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Instagram and any of the social media platforms, and also on the audio platforms. So now, the final truth, the final reveal. I had told you guys towards the beginning of the episode that first ever case of a paranormal activity ever recorded in the history of mankind. So, people who don't know, I'm going to tell you that in the first century AD, the great Roman author and a statesman called Philly the Younger recorded one of the first ghost stories in his letters. Philly reported that the ghost of an old man with a long beard was haunting his house. Yes. So if you research about it, it's a very interesting story. I'm not going to talk much about it, but if you want me to make a separate episode about it, then please let me know. Please give me your feedback. This is the first ever late night horror show which I am conducting, but I would really need your feedback on how to improve it. So, yes, thank you so much for everyone who has listened till here. I really, really appreciate it. Means a lot. I have started my podcasting journey 3 years before, and I'm planning to do a lot of different kinds of format, but in the paranormal and true crime space. So, thank you everyone for listening. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this episode with your friends and family. And also inform everyone that every Sunday you can end your weekend with a late night horror show where you can only listen to some scary ghost stories from around the world. So, thank you guys. This is Desmond signing off, and I shall see you in my next late night horror show. But also remember, Tuesday I'll be live again for a conversation based live stream. So please don't forget to catch me on YouTube. Thank you and signing off. Ciao.